What I think is great about the maker movement is that it has reintroduced the idea of woodworking to a new generation of people. When I started back in the late 60s, early 70s, fine woodworking had nearly died. There were so few people practicing it and pursuing it that a lot of the techniques, a lot of the skills, a lot of the ethics were in danger of going away forever. Well, I was worried for a while, 10 or 15 years ago, that a whole generation was deciding it was not interested again. There weren't many young people that appeared to be taking an interest in woodworking. Now with the maker movement, there are. A certain percentage of them are taking it really seriously and moving to the next step of becoming serious woodworkers. And I'm very encouraged by that. One of the interesting technologies that's out there is this 3D printing. They're starting to come up with combinations of wood fiber and resin that allow even more or less wooden things to be made with digital printing. Woodworking is a subtractive process. You take a chunk of wood and you take parts of it away until you ultimately get to what you want. But with 3D printing is an additive process, so you can start in the middle of a piece and you add on to it as you go, so you can accomplish things in the middle of a piece that you could barely accomplish in woodworking because you can't get to it. And so there are things that can be done with 3D printing that in the hands of the right clever person will revolutionize some of what we look at. Some of the finest furniture ever made was made, with the benefit of machines. So I feel the same way about the CNC machine. It's probably a two-edged sword. It's going to be misused and over-relied on, but it's also being used to incredibly clever ends by very creative people. They're not just good for repetition. They're good for all kinds of intricate work that would take someone months and months and months to accomplish otherwise. I have subbed work out to CNC machines now and again. I had to do 216 large acanthus leaf carvings for the Hermitage. And I had them roughed out on a CNC machine. And then I just finished up, put the hand surface, carved every square inch of every one of those by hand in the end, but I had them all roughed out, so all I had to do was make the finishing cuts by hand on them. The way I feel about a CNC machine is that it's no different than when the table saw first appeared on the scene. I'm sure that when the table saw first appeared on the scene back around 1800, all the cabinet makers who were accustomed to using hand tools to accomplish every job, they said, "Oh, that's just going to be the death knell of fine woodworking." And of course it wasn't. I've used YouTube for how to do things that, especially with lathe, I'm not a novice to the lathe, but I'm certainly not as accomplished on the lathe as I might be in other realms. I like to watch the YouTube videos on turning on the lathe. I learn a lot from them. There are a lot of things that you can't really visualize by reading. If you've ever tried to read a detailed description of carving an acanthus leaf, it's like walking barefoot across hot coals, or trying to chew a corn cob. It's miserable to read, and you don't get anything out of it. Whereas if you watch someone do that, you can see the whole process. Reading how to do that just doesn't translate. It just doesn't work. But when you watch somebody do it, you can understand what they're doing and replicate it. The people who commit it to YouTube are doing a great service. It's terrific.